our miracle lady right here. Okay, 20, all three verses.
Singing, guys. Okay, thank you, Miss Dodie and Miss Alice, for the beautiful music. Um, we've got a couple of things coming up here. The children's Easter egg hunt, and I'm sure that they would appreciate having some eggs brought to the office for the kids next Sunday. 55 plus potluck games, 11 a.m. March 26th in the fellowship hall. And in case you don't know it, 55 plus is us. And some others in the other classes that are welcome to join with us. We'll be the last Tuesday of the month, and so bring a dish to share, and a favorite game you might have that we could join together on. Journey to the Cross. I thought it was last night, and I was going to hurry Harold up working on his car on his truck to come down here, and I happened to look at, I think it was one of the girls had put a message on email, and I looked at that and I thought, oh wait, today's the 23rd, or yesterday was the 23rd, so it'll be next week, so we sure want to go and see that. I've never seen it before, so I don't know if any of y'all have seen it as well.
Hey, we'll go with you.
Am I talking too loud? From up here, it sounds like I'm really, really loud. But anyway, come and see that. It's on Friday night and Saturday night. So if you...
We'll go with you.
Okay, good. Yeah, it does. Yeah. When I was working with children, we had a thing with the Easter eggs in an egg carton, and the Thank you. Okie doke. We have some prayer requests. I know everybody has one of these and they can read it for themselves, but I will mention Dorothy still in rehab assisted living. Remember her in prayer. Several others. We want to remember Susan and Jimmy this morning. Jimmy is sneezing almost continuously at times, and at least that's what Susan said in the text that I got, and I think some of you saw that text as well. So she said he would be interrupting the lesson with all the sneezing going on, and also she can't drive, so she's trying to get some things moved for Jamie so that she can be more comfortable. And we also had a text from Maria that she took some sinus medication. It's got her kind of loopy, and I can understand that because when I take any kind of antihistamine, it kind of puts me down for a day or so. And she said Carl is a little weak this morning, so just remember to keep those in our prayers. I would ask prayer for a very dear friend of mine. Her daughter, she lost a daughter a few years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. She lost her younger daughter. Now this is the older daughter. She's in the hospital with heart issues. She's been in ICU for a couple of days, and really extremely high potassium, which they said could cause a stroke. But I think they've got the potassium under control, but she's still got the heart issues. And my friend Frances is 87 years old, still driving like a young kid. I mean, she goes too fast for me. I rode to the Cookgill with her last week, and she's a little fast. But anyway, she's still driving, and she's extremely tired and worried about, and I know that visions of losing the other daughter is going through her head with this one being sick as well. And also my little niece who is fighting breast cancer, and she's very optimistic, and so I want to remember her. And my son Larry had his right foot, big toe, amputated, and so he's concerned about going back to work. They said it might be 6 weeks, so just pray for him as well. Does anybody else have any prayer requests this morning? Okay.
We've got Johnny's mother.
Okay.
So Mrs. Neese.
Uh-huh.
I understand critical.
Yeah. Sounded really, really serious.
And the last I heard, I think he said Woodlands, they had taken her to Woodlands.
That's where I had my surgery and where I was, and it's a great place to be. I mean, if you got to be in a hospital, that's a good one.
Right. And of course, Tricia has her dad, who has now got pneumonia.
Yes.
So both parents, one parent from each family.
I mean,
From each side.
yeah,
Their family's being tested.
really.
Do they know what's wrong with his mother? Did they find out?
Some sort of internal bleeding. They gave her, I think, 4 units of blood.
And then she had
Yeah.
extremely low blood pressure.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
She can't remember.
Okay. Cheryl?
Yeah, that's again for prayer for Brandy.
Brandy, okay.
She was supposed to have an MRI Friday, but the machine broke. So she goes Monday. And
Okay.
pray that they get answers to what is wrong with her.
Yeah.
She could barely walk.
Oh, my
And
goodness.
it's very painful. They did say something about some kind of blood issue not getting to the bone.
Oh, my goodness.
But we don't know, and Monday she goes, and hopefully they get answers and can relieve some of this pain that she's
Yes, yes. We know God's able. He
in.
can.
That is Monday,
Monday?
she goes, and then Friday, I questioned her about this, she's scheduled for
goodness. Well, let's,
Yeah, I can't, my brain,
yeah, I have that brain fog since I've had the chemo, so I know.
it's going up in,
Okay.
what do you have, two on each side? And
Okay, so we'll remember Brandy this next week as she's going through these different things. Anybody else have, did you, what?
I have a praise.
You have a praise, all right, we love praises.
Well, we made it 52 years as of yesterday.
Oh, whoa, great.
I have a praise.
Awesome.
It's pending.
Awesome. Well,
And you were smiling, so I think the chiropractor is helping.
Some, yes, some.
yeah.
Yeah, the headaches are better, just the neck is still.
We've been praying for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And of course, I have praised what God's done for me. I mean, I am standing up here today by the grace of God, because that second round of chemo almost took me out, but God wasn't ready for me yet. I figure He's probably got to fix my quilt room yet. So, if once He gets my quilt room in the mansion that He's preparing for me, I think I'll get to go. And good to see LaVon this morning. Great to have you here. All right, any other prayer requests or praises? Okay, I guess we're all together. Good morning. So good to see you. Pray for you every day. Every day. It is. It's
look good. You
Thank you. Thank you. I feel good.
Doesn't she look good?
Thank you so much. Good to see you today. Okay. We have a lady with a birthday, I believe,
Yes.
a day or so ago. Miss Becky,
You gotta do it, Dad.
would you come up and give us a word of praise before we sing happy birthday? And I promise we'll try to make it a good song.
When we lived in Kentucky, I think about this a lot. We used to, when we would drive into town, we had to go by an Assembly of God church, and on their marquee they had for quite a while that God never said that things would be easy, but that all things would be possible through Christ Jesus.
Amen. Amen.
And I think about that when things get hard. I said, you never said it'd be easy, but
That's
we're going to
right.
get through it.
But He's going to be with us there
That's
through
right.
it all.
That's
Yes.
right. That's
Okay, let's sing happy birthday to Miss Becky. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, God bless you. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And many, many more. Thank you.
He's not feeling good today.
Oh.
Blood pressure up and down.
Well, we need to keep him in our prayers as well, yes. Brother Quanah, would you offer prayer for us this morning?
It's a blessing to be here this morning. I'm glad to see everybody here. Did all of that.
And Diane Stevens is here.
We'll go to the Lord in prayer. Our Father, it's such a blessing to be here this morning. We're all the same. We just praise you so much for the blessings we've had for so many years. But again, we just reach that point of where we're aching and pain and just have difficulty just even walking. And we just pray for your blessings, your mercy, and but we sure want to praise you for all that we have. And our Father, there's some that's been mentioned that's gravely ill. We will lift those up to you, and the caregiver, the one that's taking care of them. That's truly a job itself. And our Father, we have so much to be grateful for. I could stand here all day and praise you for so many things, but we do praise you for our Sunday school class, our church, our community, and our country. And I pray for our country is greatly ill. And we just pray that you don't give up on us. And just forgive us as we fail you. But we praise you again. All this in Jesus' holy name we pray.
And now Miss June is going to come and give us our lesson today, and I know it's going to be very, very interesting.
Since I was late, has anybody had a, update on Johnny's mom?
No updates.
I talked to Trish a couple of days ago, and she said that she cannot remember what medication she takes, and so she had couldn't sleep or something, got up in the middle of the night and took too many aspirin, and that on top of all her other medications, and that's probably what caused it.
Just a quick note from Louise, they will be in church today, her and Ron, but they weren't up to getting here on time, but she would like us to pray for her. She's having shoulder surgery on March 28th, which is this Thursday at Top Surgical Hospital in Houston, and she says she would appreciate prayer.
All right.
So reverse shoulder replacement.
But she's,
Reverse shoulder, does
They
that
just
mean?
put it in
She-
backwards,
Oh,
is what I understand.
okay, so it's
okay, Louise is going to have a shoulder,
replacement, reverse shoulder replacement.
reverse
surgery
shoulder replacement done on Thursday.
Downtown Houston,
All right,
so she wants her.
all right. I'm going to have one of these 4-hour stress tests on Tuesday. So, nuclear stress test, whatever that is, so. But, excuse me this morning if I can't hear you. I was telling somebody else I had a problem this morning. My nose was all stuffed and everything, and you go back and forth. Lord, please, I need it this morning. So what happened? God answered prayer. He unstuffed my nose. Now I can't hear. This side is all plugged up. So please help me with the lesson today. But I thought of all things to do, and I was trying to hear everything, and I don't know if it was a blessing or a hindrance this morning. But anyway, I got the message you did about Johnny. He called me yesterday. Well, he called me back last night, and he says, I do need you. He says, because I'll be back up here first thing in the morning. So her blood pressure had gone way up, and the hemoglobin had taken a fall. So just what all that entails, I really don't know. But I know it's important for our health. So just please be with all of them, whether it's Louise's upcoming surgery. I think there's some other surgeries coming up. Trish's dad and Johnny's mother, her name is Jean. So, yeah, that's been a long time. I haven't seen Jean in a long time either.
I'm gonna have my pacemaker swapped out Thursday.
No,
When?
April 4th.
April 4th, you're going to have your pacemaker switched, changed.
My battery's getting low.
Oh, okay.
Put a new one in.
That's how it is. Okay, his batteries are getting low, so he's going to have it switched out. Are there any others that we need to remember? Dodie?
This is, I'm sorry, this is not the same, thing right now, but do you think we better find out how many people are even planning to come Tuesday? Because so many of us have so much going on.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about it being that Tuesday.
This Tuesday.
Right. Oh, I have to be there. I won't be here then. So how many right now are planning on being here this coming Tuesday for a game day? I see. Do I see just 3 hands?
Is there only 4 of us? Just 1, 2, 3, 4?
Quanah, Pat,
Are y'all gonna be there?
I'm gonna try it for games and lunch on Tuesday, 55 plus.
So that's 6 of us, done. So 7, so probably Hazel would be 8. Anybody else gonna be able to come? We
lunch and games.
Okay, they have appointments, so they won't, you won't, Becky? Okay. She is, there's not gonna, maybe we should postpone it.
Would you like to postpone this?
There's not gonna be that many.
I know, we just have to get over all these appointments and things.
All right, shall we go ahead and postpone it then? All right,
Won't need to tell.
well, to be decided next Sunday. All right, let's put it that way. All right, TBD, next Sunday. So, see if you can.
Next Sunday's Easter.
Oh, that's right. Next Sunday. Yeah, I was talking to Greg on the phone last night, and he said something about Palm Sunday, and I said, well, when is it? He says, tomorrow. So I apologize with having gone through so much here in the last 3 months and all. I'm sorry. So, and if I get bogged down into the lesson here, may I call on some of you to help me out because of not being able to hear, and it's a hindrance, not a help this morning. All right, so I wish I could give the background and tell the story just like Johnny's been doing. I think we have a great teacher there, and he gives the background every Sunday for trying to catch you up on everything. And so what we've gone through already with Jacob and Esau and their problems. And what do you learn from this? Because Jacob and his mother have lied so much in here already. And one leads to another, to another, to another, still trying to cover up number one, and it just snowballs sometimes. Well, this is sort of what's going along in this one. And we're finding out that because of Esau's promise, or his declaration, shall we say, of wanting to take Jacob's life, he said, when was it to happen? Do you remember?
After his dad died.
After his dad dies. Of course, right now they don't know when that's going to be. It could be lingering on and on. After all, let's see, Isaac did live to be 180 years old, and this was said way back at this time. Before, let's see, I was trying to think back because of what had happened, and then Rebecca comes up with an idea. Have you ever had that happen in your thing? The wife comes up with the idea, and so what do though? You try to turn it around so that the man thinks it's his idea. And that's what was happening here too. Because when she got concerned about what Esau had said he was going to do to Jacob, then she started making plans too. She's trying to get him out of the house and away from Esau so that he can't carry this out. So she comes up with this idea of why not send him back home to her father's, to her country, to her father's family, and see if he can find a wife there. Something else is going on too. I don't know if you realize it. I've been trying to figure this out as far as when Isaac realized that it was a good thing for the blessing to go to Jacob. When Jacob sees his brother and he gets the blessing from Isaac, I kept thinking, well, you know, Esau came to his dad, and when he found out that Jacob got the blessing, what did he say? Don't you even have one blessing for me? Even if it's just one blessing? The only thing that Isaac could tell him was that he would be subject to his brothers, that he would live off the land, and that there would not be, people would always be after him in one way or another. It was not a good thing. But somewhere along the line in Isaac's mind, I think he got the idea because he had been told that the blessing would go to Jacob. So somewhere in there, I think he realized it, because when his wife came up and said about, let's send Jacob to my father's land to find a wife, it was good timing. She was trying to get him out of the house and get him gone away from Esau. But somewhere in there, Isaac realized that because of the blessing, and the blessing that his descendants would be many, that Jacob would have to have a wife to do that with. Do you know how old Jacob was at this time? He was 77 years old. It was time to go out and find a wife. So, especially if it's going to be such as was promised to him. And what was that? Like the dust of the earth, the sands on the shore, the stars in the sky. Who were those promises made to? They were made to Abraham first. Then it was given to Isaac. And now it's given to Jacob. So if he's going to have all these descendants, he's got to get busy, hasn't he? I mean, if he's already 77 years old. All right. So,
Well, I guess I'm kind of naive or ignorant or something, but isn't this all kind of unfair to Esau? I mean, it just seems like Jacob's getting all the blessings, and he lied and he cheated to get them.
that's true. He did do it.
And then all
But-
these people are going to be born because of him.
But the only thing is, this is what God's plan is. And yes, it was deceitful of him to do what he did and the way he did it. But evidently, it was still in God's plan for this to come about, because if Isaac had seen him, he would not have given him the blessing. But because of what had come about, he did give Jacob the blessing. But this was all God's plan.
What was wrong with Esau? Why shouldn't he have the blessing? That's
I
what I
think,
don't.
I think
His-
God's seen Esau as a reckless, careless, rough guy.
Oh, okay.
And he married that Hittite woman, and I think she was Hittite he married. And boy, that did it. That's when Isaac, he's like, well, you know,
That
he
is
couldn't
what-
deal with him because who he married.
Because
That's what got him in trouble was who he married.
even Rebekah told Isaac that the wives that Esau had vexed her poorly. In other words, they were already having family problems because he married the Hittite women. He was already married at least two. And then when he found out his father and his mother did not like his wives, he went out and married another one.
And the wife
So-
didn't like him either.
True. Pat?
Don't forget that God had told Rebecca when she was carrying these twins and they were having a fight inside her, she
Right.
told them then that
Oh.
the younger
Uh-huh.
would be the one.
Yeah.
Well, I tried to look up the names, meaning of the name, and I couldn't really find one for Jacob. But that he would be I say a follower in that when he was born, he came out holding on to Esau's heel. So they came out pretty close to the same time. But because it came out like that, but God had that plan.
Well, you know how they
So-
describe Esau as a hairy, smelly guy, so.
Reddish color.
It's kind of a tough character, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And God knew.
I'm getting the message
But
now.
you see, one son may turn out real good, and the other son just be an outlaw. I
Right.
think God's seen that in him.
Okay.
All right, so in order to fulfill this promise that God has made, it was to send Jacob back to Laban, who was Rebekah's dad, her father. So in that household, he knew these were Christian people, not these Hittite women. And so there again was another reason to get him not only out of the house away from Esau, but to get him out of the house and get him to another country to find a Christian family. I say a Christian family, well, that's what we know them today as, but a Christian family that followed God. The Hittite women didn't. They didn't want Jacob to take a wife of the Hittites. So send them back to Laban's family where he can find a godly family in order to get his wife. So we're finding that our lesson today starts out when Jacob left the family. It said he went from Beersheba to Haran, and then he reached a certain place, the night there, place, and spent the night there because the sun had set. This is probably, let's see, this, I'm trying to remember how many miles it was, 25, 30 miles from where he had lived, Jacob had lived. So it wasn't something on the first night. It had to be probably about the third or fourth night into his trip. So I said that he was traveling alone. And I got to think about it, yeah, but when Isaac sent his servant to get a wife, well, Isaac didn't send it, Abraham did. But for Isaac, he went with a whole entourage and gifts and everything. But when Jacob left, he was evidently by himself. So like I say, we're finding out that when he went to spend the night, this was well into his travels. He said he took one of the stones from the place and he put it there at his head and lay down at that place. And he dreamed. Do we have dreams? Oh yeah, we have dreams, don't we? I don't know that I've actually heard a dream interpreted. I know a lot of people said, well, it probably means this and it probably means that. But anyway, said he lay down in that place and he dreamed a dream. And that dream was of a stairway. That stairway was set on the ground with its top reaching to the sky. I got to think of all the pictures that I've seen of Jacob's ladder. I couldn't find one to bring this morning. But he put, the top was reaching the sky and God's angels were going up and down on it. You just have a column going up and a column coming down. Many things have been said about Jacob's ladder or the stairway to heaven. And I've seen some beautiful pictures of it too.
Isn't there a song?
I'm sorry?
There's a song about Jacob's ladder, is it?
Oh, there's many songs about Jacob's ladder. In fact, I was just telling Greg last night, I said we had one in high school for our Christian group. We are climbing Jacob's ladder, and we did it in rounds, and it was so pretty. And I think there's some others that have been done too. So, Beersheba. It says that the place name means well of the oath or well of the seven. The seven meaning the 7 times that God spoke to Jacob. It said Abraham named the place, following an agreement with Abimelech regarding it. He was on his way, though, it says, in that direction toward Haran. And he got to this place. It doesn't say exactly where, but it does say it near the city of Luz, L-U-Z. I hope I've got that right, which meant almond tree. I guess there must have been a lot of almond trees in that part of the country for that. So the location seemed like a suitable place for Jacob to spend the night, so he lay down. Can you imagine taking a stone to use as a pillow? It doesn't say he used it as a pillow. It does say he laid his head down, and so we're taking it for granted that he used it as a pillow. But to use a stone as a pillow, I can't either. Now, I've been tired enough to go over and say, just let me go over in that corner and curl up and I can go to sleep. But to put stone under my head, it doesn't sound good to me either. So, and he dreamed a dream. This stairway, it's the only place in the Bible where it talks about the stairway appearing. It says it means either to lift up or like a ladder, which is what we're all familiar with. It said the stairway in Jacob's vision served as the means of God's gracious revelation of himself. I got to think of this, and it's, do you ever dream things that you don't have any idea where they came from? What made you think of it? I don't know. Some dreams have meanings, some don't. This one, the way it presented itself, though, to Jacob was very meaningful. he talks about God's angels. What are angels? Or who are angels, or whatever? All right, these are created beings. Angels mean message. These were messengers from God. And we'll find out a little bit more about this in just a moment. It said, but their primary objective was to serve the Lord. Whatever was going on, usually God sent an angel. And we find that all through the scriptures when we come to them about God sent his angel. And what is that angel doing? Usually it's delivering a message from God. Whether you find it in the scriptures, where are some of the ones that we've had actually angels coming to deliver messages? What about to Mary before she married? And what did he tell her?
You're not,
Well, expound a little bit more, yeah.
he told her she was going to have a child.
Okay,
Same thing to Elizabeth. Elizabeth had a visit from an angel, and he told her.
okay. Elizabeth did. Who else did?
Yeah, Joseph.
Joseph did. Joseph had a message, didn't he? Don't be afraid to marry Mary.
The shepherds in the field, fear not.
All right, that came with a host of angels on that one, didn't it? A host of angels telling them about the birth of Jesus.
What about at the tomb?
At the tomb.
The angel, when they were looking for Jesus' body.
Uh-huh. And what did the angel tell Mary?
Fear not.
Fear not.
He is not here, but he has risen.
Right.
All right, any of the others? Huh?
Too many to name.
Too many to name. There are a lot in there. And we find with each one of these that they are messengers of God. This is what he's sending them to them. And when we find out in the next verse, where it says, the Lord was standing there beside him. This was part of his dream, that he found the Lord standing next to him. I like the first two words. I am the Lord, because we find out through the scriptures the many times that the Lord has said, I am. Even back in the time of Moses, he said, I am. All right. I am. And then Moses says, who do I tell them has sent me this? He says, I am. Tell them that I am have sent you. All right. I am the Lord, the God of your father. And who is it? The God who was Jacob's grandfather was? Abraham. All right. I am the God of Abraham. And then I am the God of Isaac. And I am
The God of Jacob.
and he's God of Jacob too. All right. He said, pardon me, I'm getting dry. I will give you and your offspring the land on which you are lying. All right, I will give you this land. I was thinking if I had gotten here soon enough, I would have tried to find on here to find the land that he was talking about. And it's all the way from, that covers now, Assyria. But remember the northern and the southern northern kingdoms that we had that come into being later, of course. But if you stop and think in your mind of what you've seen on a map of the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom and all that land, that's part of it, the land that he was giving to Jacob.
Yes, where that rock was, he put his head on.
That's right, that's where that rock was. He said, I'll give you all of this land. He said, on which you're lying, your offspring will be like the dust of the earth. He said, you will spread out toward the west, the east, the north, and the south. Have you ever seen land that just seems to go on forever?
West Texas.
Huh?
West Texas.
Texas? Okay, right. All right. Do you ever have, well, thinking of that, I can remember one time on one of our trips, when we were up in North Dakota. And we were on the highway going, now trying to get I hadn't planned on it, so I wasn't. Anyway, up the eastern side of North Dakota, and the hills were just like this. You know, it went from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, up to what's the big one in North Dakota town?
Fargo?
Who?
Fargo?
Fargo, up in there. And that highway, it would go like this, but every time it went up, you couldn't see the other side. And I told Paul, I said, it looks like we're just about to take off in the sky, just like that. If we just kept going, wouldn't have surprised me a bit. So it was pretty, but it was just one of those rolling things. And to think about all this land that even God is willing to give to Jacob here. He said, your what? Your offspring are going to be like the dust of the earth. So now we've got more promises, haven't we? And you will spread your out towards all the four corners of the earth. All the peoples on earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. Because what do we find when we, all right, we're down, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. What's next?
12 tribes.
I don't know who said, but yes, the 12 tribes. That's going to be given to them too. So we're finding out, look at all of these that are going to be coming after him. So he's kind of getting, being shown what is in the future here. He said, look, I am with you and will watch over you wherever you go. I will bring you back to this land, for I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised. That's a lot of promises, even just from God, isn't it? All right. When we were talking about the angels ascending and descending, we were looking at the messages that God is sending to the people. When we look at those that were coming down, all the message just coming down from God. And when we see them going up, what? These are all, when we get, what do? We implore our God for things also, don't we? We look to God to deliver for us too. He's promised us so many things. And he's going to stay with Jacob until all these things have been delivered. And so on and so forth with Jacob, and even ever after. So we're finding here, he says, he said here, Moses was emphasizing when he's telling about this, the Lord called Jacob. It was done in this roundabout way, but it was still through the Lord. And to leave his land, to leave his relatives, go to a foreign land. Remember, Jacob wasn't there. Even Isaac didn't make it over there. But Jacob is going back over there to a foreign land. And what has he done? He's also promised to bless him. But he's going to have all of these come through that he also promised Abraham and Isaac. So he said, Moses was emphasizing that God was bringing Jacob into the same covenant relationship as his grandfather and his father Isaac had known. All right. Not only was this just a particular land, it was the promised land. What makes it the promised land?
The land God promised them.
Well, it was the land, and God promised him that. You are correct. And he said he'd be with him throughout all of his promises until they were all fulfilled. Because this was the land he had certainly set aside for his chosen people. Wouldn't you like to know that I have a piece of land maybe up the country here that's been promised to me down through the ages and ages and ages? And God's going to fulfill that promise so that I get that land one of these days. This is the same way he's working with us and with heaven. And it says that God is faithful, so very faithful to keep his promises. I know there's sometimes we think that, okay, Lord, what happened? Well, I'm still waiting for my ear to be unplugged. He unplugged my nose, but he hasn't unplugged my ear yet. Maybe after Sunday school. I thought maybe it'd be before. Maybe that's pushing God when I shouldn't. But he's going to keep the promises. We know that for certain, don't we? He says in here, when Jacob awoke from his sleep, he said, surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. He was afraid and said, what an awesome place this is. This is none other than the house of God. This is the gate of heaven. And when we see this, what do we say? When Jacob awoke from his sleep, and you were talking about songs, there is a song that says, surely the Lord is in this place. I couldn't remember all of it to do today, but there is a song about that too, that the Lord is in this place. Have you ever been to a particular place and you just felt God's presence wherever it was? You've had one of those places?
Church that we were going to in Stonette after we retired, Fridge after we retired. That little old church, while we were there, been the same old people for 20 years. New pastor, and David came in, led the music, and all that church was so full. God's presence was there so strong that when you walked in before your door, you felt it. And you did not want to miss a Sunday because you were going to miss it. It was just so, every single Sunday, it was like that. And I've never been in a place like that before. It was just, they invited, every Sunday morning in the first prayer, they invited the Holy Spirit to come and be with the people that day. He was. It was wonderful. And I think, where is that? I want to find that again.
When I was early teenager, I guess, we had been in Washington State, and up on top of one of the mountains was a garden, and it was called the Omi Gardens. And when you went up there, it's just like, it was so peaceful and so quiet that you just felt like you could feel the presence of God there. And that was when I was about 14, I think. And I still remember that place because it had such a feeling to it. It was beautiful. The man had started this garden, tended it. It was all kinds of moss. I don't know if they had flowers. I couldn't really tell you a whole lot about it now. But I do remember that was one of those places where I went that when we got there, you could just feel the Lord's presence because it's the peacefulness of everything. So, has anyone else had one of those places where you felt a particular feeling that God was right there? I've had a couple of feelings since then, maybe not of a particular place, but a feeling that God was right there, like you could almost reach over and touch him. Of just knowing that God was in this place. That's how Jacob felt about this. He woke up from his dream, but when he looked around, it may have looked normal, but he said, what an awesome place this is. God is in this place. And so when he took the stone, so he says, not the house of God, this is the gate of heaven. That also is included into this description of this place simply because of with seeing the ladder and seeing the angels going up and down on this ladder. What do you think of that it could be? He was thinking of like a gate going from the earth to heaven. And where was God? Right there at the top. He got to talk to him. This is what amazed me, is that God spoke directly to Jacob and told him that I will be with you. And he gave him promises then that he was going to be fulfilling. But he visualized this as the connection between heaven and earth. What a beautiful thought that is, to know that he could see something that would be a connection here. He said, this is a house of God. I've been to a couple of churches where it seemed like when I walked inside that something was there. Just as Alice had said too about going into this certain place. All right. Said, as far as in heaven, said in Jacob's reference parallels the phrase, the house of God. Jacob's reference to the gate of heaven was drawn directly from his dream because the stairway provided the entryway into heaven and the presence of God. He said, thus the dream assured Jacob that the Lord was both present with him and in control. He said, genuine experiences with God always changes. We cannot spend time with him without being transformed. That's what Jacob was beginning to realize as well. In the next scriptures said, early in the morning, Jacob took the stone that was near his head and set it up as a marker. He poured oil on top of it and named the place Bethel, though previously the city was named Luz. He said, then Jacob made a vow, if God be with me and watch over me during this journey I'm making, if he provides me with food to eat and clothing to wear, and if I return safely to my father's family, then the Lord will be my God. This stone that I have set up as a marker will be God's house, and I'll give to you a tenth of all that you gave me. There's a couple of things in these scriptures here. As far as making a marker, you know, usually we think of a stone, a big old round thing, and that he may have used as a pillow. I still can't see it, but that's what God willed, and that's what it was. But some have said it may have been kind of flattish on that side because he said that he stood the stone up as a marker. Now, in some places, it was not a good thing to have a stone marker, but in this one, God said, do this. He did. And it became a symbolism of where he was. And this is God's place. This is where he is. And it says, the stone was set up there, and he changed the name to Bethel. Beth meant house of God. And El was one of the names of God. So it's usually Bethel. That's what he named it. So Christ as the chief cornerstone. So we see Christ as the chief cornerstone in many things and places, don't we? Because it's in that foundation where the cornerstone is. Have you ever noticed a cornerstone in some of the buildings that we've seen? And maybe it'll even be, they'll have something on it about it being the cornerstone of that particular building. If you remove that cornerstone, it could be, it could be that the house would fall. So we see this. That's where we put our faith in Christ. Jesus is our cornerstone. So he said I also put oil on it. Now, oil was kind of valuable at that particular time. But he used it in such a way as later on when, was it Mary and Martha that poured oil on Jesus' feet and wiped it with her hair? So oil was precious even back then. But he used it here to put it on the stone, on the marker, because it was a very, very special place. He said he set it up to consecrate it as a memorial of worship to God. So Jacob spent the night at Luz, and he named his place encounter with God Bethel, meaning house of God. Later it says Bethel was destroyed in the 6th century BC when God's people fell to the Babylonians. Remember, this was when they were taken captive. So all that time, they've had that place, Bethel, there. I had another little memorial here. When it said that the 10th, Jacob promised to give the Lord a tenth of all the Lord gave him in return for the Lord's provision and protection. When he is giving his vow to the Lord. He's using the word, if you'll be with me and do this, but that's not really what he was saying. He was meaning that with you being with me. And he knew the Lord was, because you'll find in the changing of the words here, even in this verse, because it said the Lord will do so and so, the Lord here. He knew that he was called the Lord because he was the God of Abraham and of Isaac. Now he realizes that God is his God too. Because if you look at the last few words on there, what does he say? I will give you a tenth of what you give me. So somewhere in there he realizes now he is that other person, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. He is included in that as well, because the wordage has changed here in our scriptures. He says, I will give you a tenth of what you give me. We find that it's carried out through later on into the scriptures too, about a tenth being an obligation to the Lord. What do we do now as a New Testament church? Our tithe is our tenth. But what do we do? What is it when we give now? What does he tell us to give? Above and beyond. The other is a gift, giving back to God. I was saying something one time to Greg about the scriptures and what it says, and he says, yes, but you'll notice it doesn't tell you in the New Testament to give a tenth. But we do believe in tithing, and that's where it comes in. But we give above and beyond. So it's, the New Testament church gives more than a tenth. You give what you feel is an obligation, because we've been told over and over again in the Old Testament to give of that tenth. But now we're to give more. We're to give of ourselves, of our time, of anything that we have above and beyond that tenth. So that is what you are obligated to give, and then what you give as a gift, you give back to the Lord. So we find that. I had one underlined here. Where was that? I was trying to think. Tenth later became a definite obligation under the law of Moses. I don't know. I guess my mind got to wandering last night because I made a little notation here. And all these things that God promises. But I said, when God says no, it's because he has something better in mind. This one has stayed with me since I was about 10 years old. Anybody remember the old half-hour program on Saturday mornings called Let's Pretend? It was the old fairy tales that were told in the different voices, and you could just imagine all this going on since you've heard the stories when you were so little, and you grew up with them, all these fairy tales. But at the end of it, they always had like the moral to the story is, that type of thing. And I do remember that it had something to do with the bicycle. I was about 10 years old, I guess, when I heard